First thing I'm going to do here for processing my own deer involves putting on some latex gloves. And I'm doing that because I'm going to use borax, and I'm going to clean my hunting knife that I used to field dress the doe. And I'm going to clean all of the ground venison uh, equipment. The meat grinder equipment, I'm going to clean all that, and with soap and water, actually with borax. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in some hydrogen peroxide and let it soak probably. All right, let's get this baby on here. Okay. I'll probably wear these gloves throughout the butchering process because I just get yourself a little pack, because just because it gets cold, and when it's cold out here today and the wind, it'll dry your hands out. So I'm going to start by just filling this up with water. So I'm going to let this little plastic container fill up with water, and I'm going to put in some borax to get a really good clean here. And to clean your equipment, you can use any soap. In the past, I just have used laundry detergent. What I'm using today is borax. Stuff is a little bit extra strong. That's why I'm wearing the gloves mainly. So when I was a young boy, probably 30 years ago, I used to use I had a zip saw that lasted 30 years. And it's what it is, it's a rope saw. And but it finally broke after 30 years of use and a lot of deer. But when I'm field dressing the animal, what I do is I take a piece of cord and I tie off the anal rectum and urinary tracts at the rear. You have to cut around them, and then once I open up the deer, I literally push this rope saw through the pelvic area of the deer, and then it comes out into the stomach. And then you can use these zip saws. It's to go right through the pelvic bone. And I like that because it just makes it easier to clean out everything when you're in the field, and when you get back to the processing place, you can hose it out easier. And these are very inexpensive. In fact, I bought a pack of 3 of these zip saws for, I think it was $5 from Amazon. I'm taking all of the meat grinding metal pieces that I use with my meat grinder, and I'm washing them out with, first I'm using this just laundry detergent, free and no scent or anything, simple, good soap, and I'm cleaning them out with this sponge. Once I get all these pieces cleaned out to my liking, I'm gonna dump a whole bunch of this stuff in borax. I'm gonna let it soak. I'm just gonna let it soak until I'm ready to use the meat grinder, which is the last step in the process. I've cleaned out the metal pieces of the meat grinder and the blades and the pieces for making the ground venison. I've used just a sponge and basic dishwater soap here. And I'm going to do 2 more things. I'm going to put a bunch of this borax in. Just let it soak in there. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour some of this. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol. A lot of people have it around. It's an antiseptic, so it's going to help to clean any residue from previous processing I've done a couple years ago. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of that in here. And I'll just kind of stir it around. And I'm going to let this sit literally for hours because I've got a lot of work to do. Some of the tools that you'll need to process your own deer include simple things like hacksaw. I suggest a good hunting knife. This is my survival knife, and it's never been used. It's got weight to it, so as a result, it's going to be easy to cut this deer. You need a little bit of weight and heft to your knife. Also got a backup knife. This one also is very heavy, so it's got some weight to it. And I've got honing solution, and I've got diamond sharpener, which I'm gonna sharpen this knife before I get started. You're probably going to use latex gloves. It's obviously for cleanliness, but it's also for keeping your hands dry as possible in the cold wind. You're going to need trash bags, keep stuff clean. Obviously, when you're finished with the meat, you're going to need your freezer bags. Quart size bags are fine for most of the stuff, but you might want some larger bags for the neck roast if you choose that to have a neck roast. You're also going to need this meat grinder here, and you're going to need electrical cords, and you're definitely going to need a hose throughout the process to keep things clean. And I recommend these plastic bags. You can tape them on to the edge of your table, and what you can do is you can throw heavy bones in there, the hide, for later on. So to start, I'm going to simply continue the cut with the skin all the way up, straight up here to the base of the neck here. And then I'm going to simply cut around the neck, completely around the neck. Once I get a cut around the neck, I'm going to simply pull down the whole hide off the animal like this. If you use a good sharp knife like this brand new survival knife, it makes the job a whole lot easier. I already started cutting up here, and I'm amazed at how well this knife cuts. That's just insane. So it makes the cutting a lot easier. This can actually be a fun process with a sharp knife. And I'm gonna cut around the top of the neck here. So once you cut around a ring around the neck, you can use the knife and can begin separating the hide from the flesh. So as you can see, a lot of this you can just simply pull down. You just use the knife to make sure it's loose. So one of the nice things about processing your own deer is you can see the arrow wound, which was here, right there, and looks like it shot through the neck, and then there's hemorrhaging here. So there should be a broadhead right here in the neck area. Something to remember, so you want to be careful about that. One of the cool things about processing the deer yourself is you get to see where the arrow hit. And I see it here. So the entrance wound was right here. And it went through the neck completely. And you can see the arrow shaft in here. I can see that the trauma that was caused by this arrow was through the esophagus, and then that was the angle the arrow went in. It went in and cut the those vital lines, and here's the shaft where it broke off. And so I'm going to extract that now, and it dislodged in the far shoulder here, and there you have it. So there was that much of the arrow inside the deer, and these single blade broadheads are very efficient. That's all I use. That's all I need. They have the most penetration. They're the most effective for traditional hunters shooting recurves and longbows. The skinning process is really coming along now. Just using the knife and cutting between the hide and the meat, like so, kind of helps out. And then you can keep pulling. Just pulling and cutting until you get the whole thing off. Hacksaw gets used and is very handy as situations like this. The meat stops right about in here. So you just cut these off, these forelegs, like this. Now I'm at an easy portion part of this, and I'm just simply pulling the hide off. It's coming off real easy now. As my memory serves me, there's no reason to use a hacksaw for these front shoulders. Just simply cut around the meat here, like on this one, and they'll come off pretty easily. See, there's a shoulder blade right there. So right there's one of the quarters almost off. There it goes. There's one. So you just need a knife for that, taking off the front shoulders. And you're going to want to get rid of the coagulated blood and the fat usually. So you can do that by just taking it and dumping some of it in the trash here. The rest of it I'm going to have to cut off, but that's what the cutting board's for. This is the front shoulder, and all I'm doing is pulling off the meat and I'm storing it in this bag, and that will be used later for ground venison when I start up that machine. Sometimes you can just pull the meat right off the scapula here. After you take off the hind quarter, the rear legs, you'll see these are 2 or 3 times as heavy, and there's a ball socket, but you can simply use your knife to remove that. It's easy. And since this is big and thick, you can cut some good steaks off their rear legs here. So that's what I'll do. I'll cut them off and put them in those quart-sized freezer bags. And I'm about a third of the way through this deer, and I've already gotten a knife sharpener out, the diamond sharpener, and used it. Makes a world of difference. So when you're cutting these back legs, I just kind of go with the muscle flow. So I can see there's a good cut right here. You just kind of cut down in the shape of the muscle that you see. Like that. And then you see you're getting some decent steaks here. This will be pretty thick here. So I'm gonna get a couple steaks off here. So right there, there's one right there. The shape of this muscle group right here kind of goes right down the middle. And then cut that out up here. Just follow the muscle as you see it. So there's the first. That's a small steak. I usually take off the fat because it's not that great. It's probably good for you, but it doesn't taste that great. So here we got some big, thick steaks. So you can see these are almost 2 inches thick. I'm going to go with that. Cut all the way down to the board here. And then it's a matter of taking this off the bone here. There. Now here's a really big 2-inch thick steak, and you can cut it right in half if you want it thinner, and I probably will. About 1 inch thick is the way I like them. So you just go right down the middle, cut it right in the middle like that. There we go. Look at that. So we got 2 nice steaks there. Or we got 1 long one. Either way. And so I recommend taking off the fat here, unless you happen to like the fat. The older deer tend to have a lot more fat on them. Like this one. Here I see I got a nice muscle group. There's a line of fat all around that. So I just kind of go along with the muscle group here. There we go. This is a pretty good size muscle here. All right, there's a big piece of muscle off, and then I can cut that in half, or you can keep it as one big steak. It's up to you. Now we're down to one of the best parts of the deer and the easiest to take out. I just draw one line down the right side of the spine all the way down, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And you simply take your steak cut like this. You just cut it all the way to where it kind of stops around the ribs here. Then you can cut down and cut out your steaks. All the way down there. So, like right here, we got into the ribs here. So let's cut along the ribs like that. And there's one. I'll have to clean that up, but that's the first back strap right there. This deer has a lot of fat on it. It must be an older deer. All right, cutting down as close to the spine and the ribs as you can. Getting the next back strap out of this thing. There, you should be able to cut this all the way down to the bottom of the tailbone. There we go. So there's one super long back strap, and then just cut it in half. That's that side. And here's the next side. You got your initial cut along the spine there. All right. And just work it in here. And just go into the ribs and then cut down. Get as much of this backbone meat as you can. Comes off pretty easily. There we go. All right, so there's one super long back strap that you can cut into about 3 different pieces and cut off the fat too. Then the final 2 steps are I can get some remaining meat off here more for the ground venison and take 1 neck roast cut, and then I'm finished. For this neck roast, I'm gonna cut the whole thing off, this whole big piece. Time to just go ahead and cut this. I'm gonna cut it here first. All right, and we're gonna cut this piece off here. All right, there we go. Now we've got a nice neck roast that I can put this in the crock pot, and it'll be really good. It's the most tender part of the deer after I wash it off and get it ready.